Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of BC Buckets. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Colin Mitchell. Colin, today begins our Versus series. We did this last year. We have some pretty interesting videos up there. If you want to go take a look at those, I think it was like Keegan Murray. No. It was Benedict Mathurin versus Johnny Davis was one of them. We had obviously the Jabari Smith against Paulo Banchero. All those videos. Where we both take a side. And I think it's a really beneficial because it allows us to look at the pros and the cons of both of players. Because at this point in the year, everybody's all gassed up about what players can do, but I think we can start going back and forth about what they can't do, and start picking holes in players a little bit more specifically here. And today we have Jarace Walker of Houston against Taylor Hendricks of UCF, both in the American. Two very fascinating forwards in this class, both probably projected, probably going to be top 10 picks. And yeah, we're going to put them side by side. I have Taylor Hendricks. You have Jarace Walker. We should have changed our names at the bottom just to Jarace Walker and Taylor Hendricks. But regardless, are you looking forward to this? Do you feel good about Jarace Walker? Like in a general sense, do you think Jarace Walker should be a top 7 pick?
Yes. Easy.
Okay,
Easily. I don't know how you want to start this, but easily.
you can go right into it because it sounds like you're higher just from our off-air conversations. You're a lot higher on Walker than Hendricks. Like you are kind of low on Hendricks.
Yes, and I don't think it's not a situation where I think that Taylor Hendricks is going to be a bad player. I think he's deserving of that top 10, I guess title that you just put on a second ago. The thing that I like about Jarace is the fact that he is, to me, has a way higher ceiling. And I think that comes from two areas because, listen, both Taylor Hendricks and Jarace Walker do two things great. They both are really good help defenders. They both are able to block. They both wall up well defensively, and they don't really make mistakes defensively. Offensive upside is where I like Jarace. God, I can't say his name for some reason. Jarace Walker, the best.
You said it right the whole time.
Yeah, I know, but like in my head just now. Anyways, and the biggest part for me, and that comes from, is his ability to play make. And that can be off of DHOs when he gets the ball in his hand and he makes the right read, or if he's the roll man and knows he can't go up with it, boom, he can kick it out to the corner. And he did that time and time again at Houston. Not only that, in high school, he did a lot as well. You didn't see it a lot in Houston. He wasn't able to, kind of come out of his shell in Houston. And then I like his shot a lot more than Taylor Hendricks. I think Taylor Hendricks is going to be a good three-point shooter in the NBA, but I think that Walker has the chance to have the midi, has the chance to be a sniper from deep. I mean, not like a 40% shooter, but, high 30s, which obviously is a lot different than being a 33 or 32% shooter from three. And then lastly, I think his physicality is great. Both Hendricks and Walker have trouble finishing at the rim, but I think that Walker is more inclined to get better at that because he's more physical and more able to dominate more inside with his presence.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like I watched before I even, read up and watched all the various scouting videos you can watch in these guys. Like I've watched a lot of Jarace Walker throughout the year for Houston. But I went back and I watched Houston versus UCF. This was at UCF, I believe January 25th. And they guarded each other the whole game, went at each other the whole game. It was a really, really interesting matchup. And on paper, like just watching that game alone, I left it saying these are two players that I have on a similar tier. Like very, very similar tier. So that's where I think when we do this versus thing, it's not necessarily who like we have drastic viewpoints that are different here.
Right.
It's not first take, but I do have Hendricks higher than you, I think, potentially. And Walker, I might have a little bit lower than you. I think, you have him around like top 5 area. I might have him a little bit lower. The thing for me, the biggest point that I want to go against right here is I just think Hendricks is going to be a better shooter. I think he is a better shooter right now than Jarace Walker. Like that's my main thing is Taylor Hendricks could be a 38, 39, 40% three-point shooter very quickly in this. Like he shot 39% from 3 at UCF. I do have a little bit of questions mechanically of his feet, which I know sounds weird, but like you watch his feet, they feel different on every single shot, which bothers me a little bit just as a shooter. But he shoots 78% from the free throw line as opposed to Jarace Walker, who shot 66 from the free throw line. I think 3-point shooting, like I agree with you on a lot of what Walker can be. Like Walker's ceiling, I think, is higher, but Hendricks stepping in as a 3-point shooter, like there's a situation where Taylor Hendricks could step in and beat Jabari Smith. And I know Jabari Smith struggled as a rookie, but I think he still has a lot of upside. Like Taylor Hendricks could step in as a prospect and be that level of player because of his 3-point shooting. He's a little stiff on the ball, sure, but defensively, he's more adept at playing the 5 than I think Jarace Walker is.
Yeah.
Because he's taller, a little bit longer. I think both are good switch defenders, but overall, to me, like the rim protection of Taylor Hendricks as a straight up 5 and the 3-point shooting are the two things that I think make him a better prospect than Jarace Walker. As far as a forward goes, if Jarace Walker can develop as a wing a little bit more, and I know wing forward, 3-4, it's not, who cares the difference, but if he can play a little bit more as a wing than a forward, I think to your point, that's what can make him special. Like the in-between game, the little nuances that Walker has that Hendricks doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you what you said about Hendricks kind of stepping in right away, because I think right away he's automatically the better player in the NBA in terms of what he does really well. And like you said, rim protection and his 3-point shooting. I think he can instantly be a pick and pop player. My issue is when there's pressure against that. And with him playing the 5, because like you said, I think he's going to be really good at the 5, but I think he needs to put on more weight to actually go up against guys that are bigger in the NBA. Obviously, you're playing college. It's a lot better to easier to use your length than it is to have to use your body. Which kind of puts him in that tweener area for me. Like those are the question marks, because is he a 4 or is he a 5? And I think right now he's more of a 4, but if he can develop to that 5, that's his potential, right? Whereas I think Jarace Walker already has those physical tools. His shot is good enough to already come in and develop into that good 3-point shooter. And then the playmaking ability. If Jarace Walker can play the 5 with that playmaking ability, you're looking at a guy that's like a Paul Millsap or like a Draymond Green, if you want to go that far, right? Obviously, that takes a lot to get there, but yeah.
I'll continue to try to poke holes in Jarace Walker, but I'm very high on Jarace Walker as well. For the comps of Jarace Walker, kind of speaking to your point, I have 5 names written down here.
5,
and I want you to pick which ones you think are appropriate, because I see him as kind of like a wing more so in the NBA. I mean, he measured in at 6'7" or 6'6.5" without shoes on, right?
See, I can't see him as a wing though.
But if the 3-point shot's there,
if my concern with him, and this is something that Hendricks does better, I think, than Walker, is perimeter defense. I think that
I agree with that.
Yeah,
that was my main question mark for Jarace Walker was, even though he is a good defender, I thought there were too many times where his feet weren't as fast.
I completely agree. And it comes to the situation, like you said, if he can be a wing, if he's a wing, he has to be able to guard the perimeter, because one, you have to be able to guard your other man. And if you get a fast guy that's like a slasher type, like we can compare him to a guy in this class, Cam Whitmore, for example. You put him against Cam Whitmore's getting by him every time. Obviously, he can make up for that with his blocking ability and stuff like that. But when you have to switch onto a guard, especially, that's when it's going to be kind of tough. And it's a different level. When you see guys sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, when you see guys in college beating him off the dribble as a guard, it's going to be a completely different story when it's an NBA guard. And I think he's still serviceable, but he can't full-time play the 3 or be a 1 through 5 defender.
Yeah, he's not a 1 through 5.
If he doesn't develop that more.
That it's going to be interesting, because we sometimes get hung up on defense, and realistically though, if he can stay in front of 3 through 5, I think that's going to be plenty fine. And it's going to be interesting to go, because he is a burly type of guy, right? He's like a bigger athlete with good strength. So it's like, does he slim down at all? Does he just go into being a 4 and just putting on even more strength? Like I don't know where the area is that he goes, and that's where Walker is just so much more of like a ball of clay than Hendricks. I like Hendricks, to me, has a very refined skill and very specific skill, to where if you draft him, I think he's going to step in and be, if he can step in and be a high 30% 3-point shooter and a good defender.
Yeah.
Like, do you need to be much more than that in the NBA? I don't know. But like for comps for Taylor Hendricks, I know I was going to say Walker's, but for Hendricks, I don't know what you have, but I kept looking through year after year after year of players, and 2 names came up. The first, Jeremy Grant, which I think is the obvious. Yeah, I think that's just obvious. Like 6'8", long.
I would say pre OKC when he started to come into his shell. Jeremy Grant coming in the
So
NBA.
Jeremy Grant. The second one, I've been going back. I've been clicking through everything. I have Serge Ibaka.
Ooh,
And I think that's an interesting one.
that is
Because
an interesting one.
I think that's a really good outcome for him because, shoot the ball, all play off of other players. A good, not great finisher, block shots at the rim, switch potential. Like defensively, you see it like in a similar vein. But at the same time, I just don't know how much better he can be than Serge Ibaka. Like he's not taking anybody off the dribble. Like that might be a ceiling, which I think is an attainable ceiling.
Yeah.
But that like feels like it's a ceiling. So I see him stepping in and being Serge Ibaka type role pretty early in his career.
And what were your Walker comps? You said you had
All
5.
right, I have 5. All right. It progressively gets better.
Yeah.
So we'll start at low end. Montrezl Harrell with the jumper.
Ugh.
Marcus Morris. Josh Smith.
Please delete that one. I hate Josh Smith.
Ron Artest. Scottie Pippen. If the defense gets there at the wings position.
Those are players that I would never have associated.
Think about it. But think about it. And this is the hard comps are very hard.
No, they are.
Find, but I try branching out a little bit. Who did you have as comp?
I already told him. Paul Millsap, which I guess is what a lot of people have, but I like the Draymond Green. Like I think Draymond Green type player is a guy
in
that
order to be Draymond Green, if he's gonna be Draymond Green, he's already a better offensive player than Draymond Green ever was.
I'm thinking Draymond Green that year that he was really good from the 3-point line. I can't remember which year that was, but he was shooting.
I mean, a multi-time All-Star.
Yes.
Okay. Well, why don't we just go with Scottie Pippen then?
Because Scottie Pippen to me is so much more than that. Like I don't see Jarace Walker.
Here's the baseline question we need to ask.
Okay.
How good can Jarace Walker be as a defensive player?
And what are we putting on the number scale?
Can he be an all defense team, all NBA defense?
I think both Taylor Hendricks and Jarace Walker can be all defensive team.
Okay. I mean, if that's the case, then I don't see why Scottie Pippen's too far of a reach here as a ceiling.
I think of Scottie Pippen more with a guy with a ball in his hands than Jarace Walker will have in the NBA.
Ron Artest. I'm just going to keep going down the list.
Ron Artest.
I'm going to keep going. Marcus Morris.
Marcus Morris is interesting. Ron Artest is interesting, but Ron Artest, I feel like, was a way better perimeter defender than Jarace Walker.
You're right. Yes, but if we're saying he can be an all-NBA defensive player,
right?
Potentially.
But I think he's closer to like a Jaren Jackson than he is a Ron Artest.
Well, but Jaren Jackson has the blocks.
Right, and Jarace Walker doesn't. Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Walker's value will be on the defensive side of the ball. If he can get to that being a good defender, I'm not going to say all-NBA, but if he can be a good defender, his floor is like Marcus Morris. Like Josh Smith, like that, a very good starter on a playoff team.
Yeah.
Like that is a realistic avenue there. If he can defend with his, I mean, I just love his motor in general, but if he can get there as a defender, I see him being an all-star. Like he can be very much an all-star here. So that's going to be the interesting thing to me is there's so much more variance with Jarace Walker here. And, that's what makes it interesting. I just want to throw out those comps because
that's interesting. I would never have thought that about that, but now I'm trying to like see it how it would like develop in my head of where like down the line. I mean, I like him. I just
Kevin O'Connor had Larry Johnson, didn't he? Graham Momo.
I don't remember his comps.
Yeah, I think he did. So I think that's an interesting one as well. So there's a lot of ways Jarace Walker could go, and so that's why I'm gonna stick with Taylor Hendricks.
Well, so where do you think his ceiling is, Taylor Hendricks?
I already said like Serge Ibaka, all-star.
So are you taking Taylor Hendricks just because I guess his floor is higher?
Yeah, his floor is higher.
Yeah.
Like if I'm taking this is the hard part because these are both guys that could be outside the top like 7, right? Like 8, 9, 10 range, 11.
They could be.
If we're looking at teams in that range, let me pull up a mock draft real quick while I do this. All right, let's see who's in that. 7 Pacers, 8 Wizards, 9 Jazz, 10 Mavericks. Like if the Mavericks could get Taylor Hendricks, I
That
would feel
instantly
great
makes
about
them.
that.
That instantly makes them
Better.
miles
Just better.
better.
Just better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would feel really good about like if I'm the Mavericks, personally, I'm taking Taylor Hendricks over Jarace Walker.
If I'm the
Because
Mavericks,
I need to
yes.
win.
Yeah.
Because
If
if
I'm
I
the
don't win
Mavericks,
this
yes.
year, the Lukas might be gone. Like I don't know what
Yeah.
Luka's thinking at this point.
Yep.
So, but all the other teams, like teams that are multiple years away, I'm taking Jarace Walker. But I'm just thinking in that range. Once we start getting down there, like 12, Oklahoma City, I don't think they'd really take either one of them. They'd probably take a guard, but Raptors 13, similar thing. Pelicans 14. Like I'm probably taking Taylor Hendricks at that point. So it's an interesting situation there. Anything else on Walker or Hendricks, I guess, that we haven't covered? Neither one finishes very well.
Yeah, which is weird. For Walker, weird. I would say. I think that
Hendricks, I will say though, Hendricks, another point in Hendricks' favor, I think he's a more adept dunker.
Yeah, I think he's a lob threat.
He's taller.
He's a lob threat, I would say.
Yeah, he's more of a lob threat than Walker is. And that's what makes Walker a little concerning is he's not getting those easy dunks that Hendricks gets.
Yeah. Walker does definitely settle for like the weird floater when he shouldn't be using it in certain situations for sure.
Yeah. Going back to the high school tape, Hendricks played like he did in college and high school for the most part to me. Walker, I only watched his U19 stuff. Mm-hmm. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like we said, the ceiling for Walker is incredibly high at this point. So that was hard for me because I am very high on Walker. So, but I think we did a good job at covering everything for both of these players here. Hendricks doesn't really create a ton for others.
But that's the thing, though. I don't think Hendricks will ever be asked to, right?
That's true.
Like in the NBA, like he could do the two things he does great, which is shooting, being that pick and pop guy, corner guy, whatever, and then his defense across the board. And he could be, like you said, a Serge Ibaka, 2-time, 3-time, third best player on a championship team. Whereas Walker needs the playmaking, but if he gets the playmaking, he could be,
Scottie Pippen,
way higher. Scottie Pippen. There you go. That's so crazy to hear. Scottie Pippen.
Oh man, I'm interested to see once we finish all of our evals and stuff where these guys end up on our boards.
Yeah.
I have them right next to each other right now, so I'll have to see. But that's it. Anything else before we go? Wrap it up.
I think that's it.
All right. Well, we thank y'all for joining us. We will continue to have these versus series out in the coming weeks, comparing player versus player. Let us know in the comments if there's any players you want to do. We already have a lot of them planned out, but if y'all have any players in the bottom of the first round or late first round that you want us to do, then let us know in the replies in the comments and leave a like. But yeah, thanks to all the new subscribers out there. We're going to put out videos basically every other day at this point. So if you're watching this on whenever we put this out, 2 days later, we'll have another one out. So stay tuned for that, and we will talk to y'all later.